Hey, podcast listening people. Connor Doobie here. Happy Friday to you, my friends. We're coming at you live with a brand new episode of B2B Mentors. We have a guest interview today and a little bit of coaching, mentorship, marketing, mindset, mentality, and strategy for you going into the weekend. And you're going to absolutely love it. So make sure you stick around. Make sure you do me this tiny favor. Please share this out. If you're watching the video, I guarantee you there's somebody else in your network who will get value from this. This costs you nothing but your time and attention to focus in, consume the content, and just, really when I'm getting coaching from people, it's like, what's that one golden nugget that you can take and implement right away to make an impact, even if it's a micro impact that will change the way that you do things going into the future. Reminder for you as well, you can find our show on all of your favorite podcast apps, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, you name it. Just look up B2B Mentors and you can check out all past episodes. I also have a link included in here. So with that, my friends, I'm going to bring up my friend Elon, who's a marketing executive helping high-tech growth companies in B2B tech scale by building marketing programs that rapidly generate pipeline, increase revenue, and dramatically elevate brands. Elon's, obviously, you'll learn this, from our conversation the other day, very passionate dude, very experienced in B2B marketing, and is out there in the world to make an impact. And from, early startups to large multinational companies. So with that, welcome to your podcast debut.
Thank you.
You're here. You made it.
I made it.
So
thank you for inviting me.
Tell me, my friend, give us a little behind the scenes. And I'm giving you permission, by the way, to brag about yourself. Give us a little bit of background. What led young Elon to where you're at now in your professional career and life?
Oh, that's a long story. I'm not sure that we have enough time. I started my career as a journalist and an editor, a technology journalist and editor. That was over 25 years ago. And at some point, I decided that instead of covering what's going on, I want to be involved. So I did a switch from reporting about it to actually being involved. In the middle, I went through a marketing agency that I founded and managed for a decade. It was good involvement, but I wanted to be more involved. So I went into the company side to influence and to impact things from the inside.
What kind of marketing agency were you doing back then?
Marcom, mostly public relations, advertising. Back then, what's today called blogs. Back then, the term didn't yet exist. We're talking about late 90s, early 2000s. A little bit of videos, not a lot. Video actually started way later.
And so, what are you doing now in your career life?
So I just finished a few weeks ago a fascinating role. For the last 6 years, I've been the head of global marketing for one of the fastest growing IT companies in Hitachi Group. In 6 years, we've doubled revenues by more than twice, increased revenues more than fourfold in North America, in Americas, and basically took a company and turned it into a global brand. Taking a bit of a rest now and about to start a new adventure in the coming months.
Do you know what you're doing? I know since last time we talked to you, a little hint of what you're going into?
I can't, not yet. It's too early.
All right. We won't break the secret sauce, but that means you got to go give Elon a follow on LinkedIn, connect with him. So when you see what he's got going on,
Absolutely.
Because you are just a wealth of information and you haven't been very public. You've been a practitioner over the last, number of years. You've been really behind the scenes. And so that's why I was like, we got to get this guy's information out there.
It has to do with mentality, Connor. I'm coming from, so my mentors back 20 years ago, the way they tutored me and mentored me was that the front is always the company. It's always the product. It's always your customer, whomever you're serving. And the marketing people operate in the back. So this is the mode that I've been operating according to for the last 20 plus years. And all of this thing of being in the front and doing marketing for myself, etc., it's kind of new to me. It's a new concept. I'm getting to learn about it, getting the hang of it. It's a new world. It's a new concept.
In what way? Has marketing really even changed that much over the years?
No, it's not about marketing. It's about putting myself more at the front out there because I have what to offer, rather than just being in the back and serving the company that I'm working for.
Making a pivot to your personal brand,
Yeah.
More so. But overall marketing, let's just talk general B2B marketing for high technology, focused companies. Has marketing really changed from last? I don't think it has, honestly. I mean, maybe some of the platforms and stuff has changed, but in your opinion, like what's really changed in marketing over the years?
So the tools obviously changed a lot. The area is more crowded. You have way more competitors. There were also a lot of competitors in every section back 20 years ago, but there are even more so today. It's mostly about the tools. Things are becoming more digital. Back 20 years ago, it was more face-to-face. Today, more online. But it's still the same marketing. It's still the same methods, mostly.
Right. You got to reach enough of the right people.
Yep.
And be able to stay in front of enough people. How you do that and what you do that with has adapted, but really it's the principles are the same.
Correct. And in what I'm doing, which is mostly targeting senior IT decision makers in B2B, in large enterprises, etc. It's not just reaching more people, it's reaching the correct people, because very often it's very few people within a huge organization with thousands and tens of thousands of employees and billions of dollars in revenues, but you have maybe 5 or 10 people who are relevant inside, who are the true decision makers and influencers within that organization. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality of whom you reach.
So if I'm a CEO, marketing director, CMO of, let's say my company is doing, 10, 50 million this year, and I want to 40x my growth in 2022 and 2023, what would you break down in terms of steps or a roadmap to accelerate growth?
So first of all, I need to understand who exactly is the target audience.
Let's say we're selling to CTOs, CIOs, technology roles, some of the stuff you've done over the years.
Okay, again, it's more detailed than that, because some products you can sell for literally any organization, say storage or compute or cybersecurity, and some products or services are way more focused. So if you're selling to everyone, my job is easier because we're literally targeting the entire market. If you're selling to a more narrow type of audience, more narrow section, then it's more challenging. The biggest challenge with these type of decision makers is getting in front of them. Now, the way we've been doing this pre-COVID, my sales team was a big believer in face-to-face. So one of the things that I did was creating as many opportunities for them to be in front of their customers, whether it's large trade shows, smaller events that we initiated, partner events, user groups, etc., lots of things. All of that, if you're a small company, all of that must be accompanied by very strong brand marketing and lots of content, because you need to build your brand. No CTO, no CIO will risk going with a small startup, and it's a risk, unless they're sure that they can keep their job, that they won't lose their job. There's a saying, it used to be back 20 years ago, 20 years ago, that no CIO, no chief information officer or CTO was ever fired for choosing IBM, because it's IBM. Doesn't matter if they're the best or not, it's IBM. Very similar here. So it's not only IBM, but if you're a small startup who wants to compete with them, you need to build the entire infrastructure, the content and the brand and everything before and in parallel when you try to reach them. All of that is digital, of course, and also accompanied with lots of digital activities, lead generation, etc. So it's building building a strategic plan right now on the fly. That's a bit of a challenge.
So how would you build that strategic plan now, especially, post COVID era?
That's an interesting question. So what we see, first of all, is that COVID starts to subside. March of 2020, we literally had a shutdown of every single event in North America, basically worldwide. Events are starting to come back. The challenge today is to convince people to actually interact with you, to come to your events. And the events are slightly different. They tend to be more hybrid. So it's a combination. It's understanding what your audience is passionate about and how to get in front of them, and you have to be creative. The days of creating an event, doesn't matter if it's in person or virtual, and just a guy with a PowerPoint presentation, these days are long gone. No one will come or they will log out after, they will drop after 5 or 10 minutes. You need to be creative. You need to give them something that is more, to create some kind of and I'm a big believer of connecting emotionally with your customers. Do something creative, whether it's online or in person. Do I don't know, a sushi workshop, do some kind of a wine tasting, have them come with their spouses. For a great event, you don't need to have 50 or 100 people. If you have 5 or 10 good decision makers coming with their spouses, either online or in person, that's a success already, because you get the conversation going.
If you got sushi, I'm there.
Okay.
I'll be
Me
there.
too. Me too.
I don't care what we're talking about, but I'll be there.
Me too.
Yeah. So events is something that you're a huge advocate of, whether it's online or offline, creating something that's unique, creative. And then at the end, on the other side of that, you have to have brand, because you could do all the right things in the world to get people into your pipeline. But if you don't have brand, then you're going to lose that out to IBM or to, another competitor that's put the work in to build brand. I think this is something a lot of marketers get pressured on from their leadership team, but it's also not a snap your fingers, like I'm turning on an ad campaign. Brand takes years to build and seconds to destroy. And so how in today's world, if you're trying to compete against the IBM giants, how do you effectively go about building brand in a way that's valuable to enterprise customers?
You need to show them the value. You need to, first of all, you need to understand your customers very well. You need to understand their pain point. You need to understand what's hurting them, what are the solutions that they're looking for. And then you need to present to them content in a way that will answer these challenges. Now, I'm hesitant regarding, I agree with you that building brand takes a long time. I'm kind of hesitant regarding destroying brand. You can do it in a matter of seconds. You really need to do something that is drastical and really wrong and exceptional in order to destroy brand. It's not so easy to destroy brand. And the reason that I'm saying it is because I've seen a lot of young marketing professionals out there who are terrified of doing the wrong things. They're terrified of making mistakes. They keep asking for assurances for everything. They want multiple reviews on every blog and on every video, on every white paper, etc. And in many cases, things like that just slow down processes. You invest more time in getting something perfect rather than just getting it out and promoting it. So that's one of the biggest issues that I've seen with content. Perfect is, in my world, it's the enemy of getting things done. I'd rather have something that is 80, 90, 95% done, forget 95, 80 to 90% done and good, and just release it and put the emphasis and put the time spent on promoting it. That's the other thing that I don't see many companies doing correctly, because the time that you will spend on making something perfect from 80-90% to 100%, that's a wasted time. You could create a lot more value during the time.
Right. Yeah. And we've talked about this too. It's like when you're sitting there contemplating on what to put out, trying to perfect it, your competitors are already
Yep.
getting 5, 10 extra pieces of material in front of your
Exactly.
audience.
Exactly.
And in the perfection, from my experience, perfection comes along with, practitionership. I mean,
Yep.
look at the podcast, guys. Like I started this podcast and it's evolved. I didn't worry too much about what it was going to become or what was perfection. I just started doing it. And
How
then
long have you?
the framework started, building along the way. How long have I been doing it?
Yeah.
So I started podcasting 4 years ago and I launched B2B Mentors a year ago. So this is my second
Okay.
podcast launch in the last 4 years.
Okay.
So perfection just comes from habits
Exactly.
and practition, I would say.
Exactly.
I don't think that's a word. I think I made that up. I don't know. So talk about creativity. You mentioned being creative. Give me some examples of how people can razzle and dazzle in online events nowadays.
I can tell you what I've seen in other companies, what they're doing. I haven't done many online events recently, but I was invited to a few. It's mostly about getting people to interact with one another. So, say you start the event with one large group of, it can be 50, it can be 100 people, and you give them, let's say the event is 1 hour, you give them 10 or 15 minutes of an introduction or a presentation on a specific topic, and then you break them into rooms of, say, 8 to 10 people in each room, and you get them discussing between themselves. So you keep them interacting, you keep them live within, rather than, because everyone knows that if the webinar is not interesting, people will multitask, people will run away.
Yeah.
I will check my email, I will check my cell phone, Twitter, whatever. The idea is to keep people interacting with you all the time, and to keep them engaged. That's the word that I was looking for.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what you do, just make sure that you keep them engaged. It can be through online surveys that you post throughout the webinar, and then you discuss that with people. You invite questions live. You don't wait until the end. By the way, that's one of the things that I never believed in, keeping the Q&A to an end. Doesn't matter which type of event I'm doing, whether it's a webinar or whether it's an in-person, we always invite people to interrupt. Just interrupt the presenter in the middle, ask questions.
Yeah, instead of just presenting or blabbing at people,
Yep.
Getting them involved, doing breakout rooms, doing more workshop, like almost mastermind style. Get people, like a lot of people think that they have to provide all the content for an event and come up with 2, 3, 4 hours of content when your attendees can help to fill and create a good chunk of the content.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember this great leader back at TMC about a decade ago, and standing in front of a room, a huge hall. There were hundreds of people there, and people kept asking him questions, and he kept responding and encouraging. And at some point, someone told him, "Hey, look, you're still only at slide number 6 or 7 or something. I don't remember. Don't you want to move forward?" And he said, "No, it doesn't matter. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to answer your questions. I don't care about finishing the entire deck. I want to interact with you."
Yeah, those are the smart presenters. You can read the room. You know what's going on.
Exactly.
Let's pivot a little bit, because one of the things that I know you also like to mentor on and coach on is the career of being a marketer. And so there's marketing students that listen to this, or young fresh faces who are interested in getting into marketing, or maybe even making a career shift. And so what are your recommendations to getting yourself into marketing leadership positions?
Okay, so let's separate. I mean, so I'm looking at different things if I'm hiring for entry levels or if I'm hiring for senior roles. For entry levels, it's all about the curiosity. It's all about the energy that the person brings. Do your homework. Look at what the company does. Ask ask smart questions. Be engaged. Ask questions that will stop me, that will get me to think. That's fine. These are the great questions, not the standard things that I can respond to out of my sleep. That's the best advice, and you probably heard that a million times because everyone is looking for the exact same thing. The other thing, and this is true across the board, no matter whom you're speaking with, I call it the coffee test. Maybe other people will call it something different. You're sitting in front of someone, and you're thinking, once he or she are on my team, will they be interesting for me to have a half an hour coffee with them at the cafeteria, or whatever, to sit with them for lunch? Is that a person that will be interesting for me to work with, to interact with? Are they nice, interesting, etc.? So that's also important. So try to be that person who is interesting, who is engaging. That's for junior folks. For more senior ones, it's slightly different.
Pause on that real quick.
Okay.
People struggle with this because I agree with you. Like if you're no matter what career you're going into, you're selling yourself, and it's a sales skill, and being great at sales also comes with qualifying the prospect, asking great questions, being interesting, and being trusted. So
Correct.
what are good questions that young entry level, not even, you don't even have to be young, but entry level marketing, those who want to go into marketing, what are some good questions they can ask of hiring managers?
There's a great presentation, TED Talk by Simon Sinek, which you probably know what I'm talking about. Start with why. Look at what the company is doing. Now, how they're doing is relatively easy, and what they're doing. These are things that you can see on the website, on the LinkedIn channel, Twitter, etc. Why are they doing that? Why are they taking that approach and not another approach? Do you think that there are other things that they should do or could do? Start with that. Investigate that. Ask about those type of questions. That's one of the things that I'm doing.
Start with the why. Be genuinely curious and inquisitive. Like imagine if you went into a job interview and someone asked you, why are you guys even looking to hire this position? Like, are you sure this is exactly what you need in your business, or is there other areas that you're looking for? That would surprise somebody.
Yeah, that too. I'm not sure if I would go that far. Possibly. I was thinking more about the actual activities, the actual things that the company is doing. Look at their acquisition and ask them why they're looking for specific things or specific skills. Look, I've seen all types of works in my career. I personally prefer and like and write the ones who are shorter. I've seen things that are like a mile long with so many qualifications and so many skills, etc. It's impossible. You're looking for a unicorn. No one has all of that. Does it really matter? Do you really need all of those for that specific role? And especially if it's an entry level. I mean, I can tell you how many and I'm looking at entry level roles from time to time. I'm helping people to apply to them. I'm seeing entry level roles in which they're asking for 3 years of marketing experience, prior marketing experience. How exactly does that work? I mean, how do you get the 3 years of experience if it's an entry level role? All kind of ridiculous things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's on part of the hiring managers too, right? Is just like ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. On the flip side, if you're ambitious, um, you could be interning and getting these life skills and roles. Like when I was getting my marketing degree, I was managing a marketing department at the time, and I
Mhm,
worked my way into that position while I was earning my degree. And
mhm.
so it's possible. I mean, if you want to go above and beyond, it's good to start getting that practitionership before you actually go out and seek a career. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
Because
by
do
the
you
way,
care? Like, let me ask you this: do you care that much about someone's degree, or more about maybe what experiences they've had and what application they've actually had in the world of marketing?
if I tell you that the degree doesn't play at all for me, I'm probably shooting myself in the leg. But
Not at all, because I
it
agree with
it,
you.
it
And
doesn't.
and and I've asked many people this question, by the way, and lots of them agree too.
It doesn't matter. The degree
Mm,
doesn't matter. The only thing that a degree shows, and that's my personal view, and I have many friends in the academia who are going to, I'm going to hear from them afterwards. The only thing that a degree shows is that you have the bat and the patience to sit down and to churn through material. That's it. Doesn't matter if it's a bachelor or an MBA, which I did, or even a PhD. Most types of PhD. Some are maybe more unique, but many types of PhD. It's basically just sitting down, going through the process, learning, generating articles, writing your thesis, etc., etc. And I know many people who have done that. I'm not saying that they're not smart. What I'm saying is that given the time, given the option, literally or almost any of us can do that. So it's not proving, it's not a proof of anything.
mhm.
What you've done, the actual skills that you have, the actual skill set, the way that you think, the way that you analyze things, your emotional intelligence, all of that, that's what really counts.
Mm, I love it. I agree with that. I think a lot of the top marketers, entrepreneurs, business coaches out there who I've talked to, worked with, they would agree with that too. Not to say there's not value in getting a degree, but what can you actually provide that you can jump in on day one and be able to take action on
Yeah, and don't,
from experience?
yeah, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there is no value in getting a degree. Today, or these days, without a bachelor's, it's nearly impossible to get into the job market. So if you are competing against college grads and you're young, then you will be at a disadvantage. The main challenge is that you don't even get to see when you post a rec. There are all these types of automatic systems that churn through resumes, and if you don't answer some basic qualifications, you won't even make it through the hiring process. You won't land on top of the desk for the hiring manager or the HR person.
Unless maybe you've networked your way in.
Networking,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, and that's okay. Thank you. That's, in my view, the only way to do it, and that's literally the way that I've gotten each and every role that I ever had.
Mhm.
Only networking. I'm seeing folks spending hours, days, months submitting resumes on LinkedIn and Indeed, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, it's meaningless. There are hundreds, sometimes thousands of people who are applying for every job, for every role. You cannot believe the number of people who are applying for each role at say Google or Microsoft. It's unbelievable. I'm partnering with those organizations. I'm hearing data from the inside. You cannot beat those automatic systems. You cannot beat the algorithm. The only way is through networking and to have someone promoting you from the inside, because that's the bottom line of hiring people. When I hired from my agency, when I hired for my last company at Hitachi, it always through word of mouth. Because when someone tells you, I know this person, I trust them, take a look at the resume, this resume ends up on top of the pile. always. And they will be the first whom I will call, the first ones that will be invited to an interview.
So how do you advance your career for senior marketing leadership? And also what's the process you go through when vetting or identifying a new company that you want to join their senior leadership team?
Okay, let's separate between the two. And remember, I told you that this is pretty new to me. The way to get senior leadership roles, whether it's VP marketing or CMO, these are the roles that I'm looking at these days. It's all about networking on the one hand and on building your prestige, your brand on the other hand. And this goes through whom you know and how you post on LinkedIn and what content you put out there, posts, articles, etc. And there are a lot of tips and tricks in order to increase your visibility. I'll give you just one. Stop liking posts. If you see a post that you like, if you see an article that you like, liking it, hearting it, celebrating it with applause or whatever, this is meaningless. No one takes a look at that. A good one will get tens or hundreds of those. A really great post or article may get a few thousands. It's meaningless. Create some kind of a comment. Write something about it. Ask an interesting question to the person who wrote that article or that post. Interact with them. In many cases, almost 100%, they will respond. They will look at your LinkedIn profile. You can connect with them that way. This is how you create and expand your network in a smart way. And this is only one tip. There are many others. And I lost the second part of your question.
Well, and what are you looking for when jumping into a new marketing leadership role?
Okay, great question. There was something that you interviewed a few months ago. He gave a great acronym that I don't remember, and he basically covered all of them. If you remember, go watch, and you can say his name, go watch him, the podcast with him.
You got to give me context.
He's a CMO, and he gave an acronym that was 6 or 7 letters, some word, and in what he's looking for. I don't remember.
Grant Johnson.
It's possible.
Grant Johnson. I could bet you it was Grant Johnson.
It's possible.
Yeah.
So there are a few things that are important, especially for a smaller. Now, I'm looking for small to mid-sized companies because I want to make an impact. I want to have a central role. When you're going into one of those huge organizations, whether it's Amazon or Google or, I don't know, Microsoft or whatever, they have many VPs of marketing. They have hundreds, if not thousands, of marketing people. The impact that each and every one of them can make on the organization, not great. When you're going into a small startup or even a mid-sized company, say up to 1,000 or 1,500 people, the impact that you can make is much larger. So that also depends on which type of companies you're targeting, and there are pros and cons to each one. We can cover them later if you want. When you're going into a smaller company, there are a few things that I look at. First, who is your team? And by team, I mean the overall team. First, who is the leadership? Do I believe in the leadership? Do I believe in the vision, in the company, in the products? Who is the team that I will be working for, that will be working with, that I will be leading? What are the resources that I'm giving as a leader? Can these resources help me fulfill the strategic goals that the company is giving me? It starts with budget, but it's not just about budget. I've seen places in which you get nearly impossible goals and a tiny budget to achieve them. Now, I'm an expert in guerrilla marketing. I've done incredible things with tiny budgets, but there's still a limit to what you can do. Okay,
Yeah.
you cannot go to a huge trade show and make an impact with a tiny budget. You need trade shows cost money. For example, doing a good online lead generation program costs money, etc., etc. And I'm not talking about even about headcount. I'm assuming that the headcount exists, but hiring people costs money, and to get good people, it costs more and more because people deserve that pay. So these are a few things that I'm looking for. Culture is huge. What is the culture in the organization? I like management that is more laid back, that gives you a hands-free and lets you manage. I've seen places in which the management is, even in larger organizations, in which the management it's pretty micro, it's into the details. They're giving a very tough time to their team. Not fun to work in such places. These are just a few pointers. There are probably a few more that I'm not thinking of right now.
And you have to pop them on video and share them yourself. So in winding down here, Elon, what is uh any last tips, strategy, recommendations, anything else you'd like to share and wrapping up here?
So you wanted to talk about imposter syndrome. That's what I remember. And this is especially true for younger folks, but it's also true for veteran folks with many years of experience like I do. I heard a saying that we all, it's a story, that we all move on a range between feeling that we're gods and that we know everything and can do everything. And then the day after, sometimes the hour after, we can suddenly feel worthless, like we don't know anything. We feel like we're imposters, like we're a fraud. We have no idea how we got to that position, to being where we are, etc. I used to think that it was only me. And then over time, I spoke with friends, I spoke with colleagues, etc. And guess what? Everyone has it. Literally every person that I spoke with, including senior leaders, everyone feels like that from time to time, like they don't belong, like they're an imposter, that every minute someone is going to uncover that they're a fraud. And because I've experienced that myself and I've been through that, I've also been coaching people on how to deal with that. You cannot completely overcome it, or you cannot completely rule it out and make sure that it never happens to you. But there are techniques, and at least two techniques that I've found over the years that work for me and that can help you reduce that effect and go through it. The first one is go back to the basics of who you are. Look at your resume, look at your LinkedIn, look at your achievements, and remind yourself how you got here. And you're probably not a fraud. You got a seat at the table and you got your job, or you got to the place where you are because of what you did, because of what you are. So that's one thing. And the second thing, it all has to do with body language, with posture. I'll give you the nutshell, but I encourage each and every one of you to go to TED and look for a TED talk by Dr. Amy Cuddy. This is the second or third most watched TED talk in history. Tens of millions, of views. And she's talking about body language, body posture, and making it or faking it until you become it. Everyone knows faking it until you make it. She's taking it a step beyond that, faking it until you become it, until you actually internalize it and become it. And she's talking with regards to body posture. Don't sit, don't crouch, don't sit like you're small and miserable. create a big posture. Look at sports, look at winners. They're usually going with some kind of a V motion. Wonder Woman, Superman, all of them, it's all strong postures, body language, etc. Adopt that, and it will affect the way you actually behave, you internalize it, and you become it over time. So before an important meeting, before before an interview or whatever, go to the nearest bathroom, stand in front of the mirror and just do this pose, do a short meditation, 20, 30 seconds. You don't need more than that. Look at the video. Look up that video. She explains it much better than me. She gives samples. That's the best tip that I can give to anyone, not just juniors, not just young
Act
people.
like you belong because
everyone. Yep.
Act like you belong because you do.
Exactly.
I love it. I think that's great advice, man. It really is.
But she talks how to act, how to present yourself, how to posture yourself, etc. That's the secret. That's the secret sauce.
Well, and I hear all the time, Connor, I'm an introvert. Yeah, but you're only an introvert because you haven't practiced being an extrovert. You haven't done the work to be extroverted. I'm introverted. Like I don't like to be around a lot of people, even though that might surprise a lot of people. And it's just following the same exact things that you've talked about. So I think that's beautiful. With that, my friend, how can people find you, follow you, get into contact with you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way.
Hit the LinkedIn. I'll put his profile in the description. If you're watching this on audio, you can go ahead and snag that video. You can find this anywhere. We'll attach it there as well. You can find Elon. And Elon, thank you, my friend. This has been really insightful. I appreciate you. You're welcome onto the show. Congrats on your first podcast debut. You did great. And I think you followed your own advice because I didn't get the sense that you're nervous at all. I think you crushed it.
Yep, I'm working on it. Thank you.
Nah, you're awesome, man. You need to do a lot more. All right, brothers, stick around for 1 second while we wrap up here. And guys, please make sure you go and share this around. Make sure you subscribe on all your favorite podcast apps. One last quick reminder, if you're a B2B marketer, you're struggling with the time, the process, the organization of getting your blogs, newsletters, social media content done, make sure you reach out to activeblogs.com. Relax, your content worries are over. We can produce all of your technical B2B content for you so you can save a lot of time, achieve better results, and be more consistent with your marketing content. With that, my friends, much love to you. Make it great, and I'll see you on the other side.